coming up.
You look at right now, the cost of land, the cost of feed, it's extremely high in the beef industry. And these traits become more and more important. And how do we lower these costs?
Our steers came at 620 and our heifers were 590. We're seeing the results on the field rather than just on pieces of paper.
See how a legacy of herd profitability begins with proper trait selection. Next on The American Rancher. Hello and welcome to The American Rancher. I'm Pam Minnick. On today's program, we'll hear from Lee Leachman of Leachman Cattle in Colorado. Leachman produces over 2,500 bulls per year, but Lee's passion is to help ranchers become more profitable. With proper trait selection, Leachman explains that ranchers can build a cow herd that will have lower cost, better reproduction, and higher valued calves. Leachman Cattle calls their plan Ranching Legacy 2030. Recently, Lee sat down to visit with economists and other top industry experts to discuss the key drivers for cow-calf profitability.
So today we're going to talk about the factors that drive profitability in commercial cow-calf ranches. In particular, given that we sell genetics, I'd like to focus on the factors that are influenced by genetics. And joining us on the show today are Stan Beaver from Ranch KPI, who's widely recognized as an expert in ranch management. He served as a Texas A&M Extension economist for 27 years and has helped out a lot of ranches that we're acquainted with. And also Logan Hoffman, who's the Beef Extension Associate at Colorado State University. And these two guys have worked extensively with ranchers to help them better understand the financial performance of their cow-calf operations. Good morning, guys. It's great to have you joining us today.
Morning, Lee.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Lee.
So let's start out with the big question of the day, and that is, as you guys study these different ranches, what are the key factors that drive profitability in those cow-calf operations? Stan, why don't you tackle that first?
Well, yeah. First and foremost, we would love for every cow to lay down and have a calf, get bred, lay down, have it, and then finally wean that calf. Couple that then with the cost to raise that cow or maintain that cow for a year, and then ultimately what's it cost to wean that calf. So, and I always talk about the three-legged stool, which is productivity, the cost to get that productivity, and then ultimately coming back to you, Lee, what kind of price am I going to get for that quality animal that hopefully I produce?
I like to think of framing that mindset in the idea of maximization versus optimization. And for so long, kind of the battle cry is maximize, maximize, maximize. And what maximization speaks to on the productivity level is revenue. But optimization brings in a full picture of profitability. And so weaning weights, or just the weights of the cow in general, you have to couple that with the per unit expenses, or else you're looking only at half the picture. And so I would just challenge folks to think about optimization rather than maximization, and kind of selecting for bulls and how the cows are going to react to that, and also how the offspring are going to do because of that.
You've heard me say this before. I ask ranchers typically, okay, so if you're going to focus on weaning weights, what's the greatest influencer of weaning weights? And again, if we think about the top three things, we would love to think that my genetics, all of that, all my management is the greatest influence of what those weights are. That's not to say it's not important, because they are. My goodness, once I get a calf on the ground, I want that to be the best performing calf that I've got. Again, that's what's your objective for owning the cows, and how does those weaning weights influence, what I'm doing in order to keep these cows right.
One thing I get asked a lot by ranchers is, what does it really cost to keep a heifer back to replace a cow that's moving out of the herd?
as you would expect, what you're doing is accumulating those costs of that replacement heifer over the course of 3 calendar years for 2 years. So she finally weans a calf. Now, what's it cost and what's all those costs that have accumulated? But by the time that female finally gets added to the balance sheet on any particular ranch, you're looking from a low of about $1,300 up to goodness, in some cases, approaching $2,000, and there'd be that group of ranches that would probably be better off just buying their own replacement heifers than trying to develop them.
So, as I look at this, kind of summarizing this deal from a genetic standpoint, I kind of always think it comes down to really a handful of things. I mean, we want that cow to reproduce more, which is where you started out, Stan, more calves, more reproduction. We want to minimize the amount of turnover, particularly unwanted turnover in the young end of those females. I think we really, as you talked about, Logan, we want to optimize the stocking rate and minimize the amount of expensive purchased feed or expensive raised feed that we have to feed them, and then still have a product that's heavy and also valuable in the marketplace, right? I mean, it's got to be all those things. Did I leave anything off that kind of short list?
Some people have heard me say, you don't control what the average price of calves are. If the average price of calves are going to come down from $2 to $1.50, there's not much you're going to be able to do about it from a cow-calf rancher standpoint. But what you do, in fact, control is whether you're above or below the average. And from your standpoint as a seed stock operator, I want to have those genetics that are going to give me that calf that the market is demanding. I want to be on the high side of that average price, not on that low side of the average price. So genetics plays a big role there.
Up next.
You look at right now, the cost of land, the cost of feed, that's extremely high in the beef industry. And these traits become more and more important. And how do we lower these costs?
Learn more about improving your outfit's bottom line here on The American Rancher. Welcome back to The American Rancher. In this segment, Lee visits with two of the industry's leading geneticists about how commercial herds can better select their replacement heifers to build a legacy of increased profitability.
So in our first session today, we heard about the keys to cow-calf profitability from Stan Beavers and Logan Hoffman. They spent a lot of time talking about fertility and longevity, cow feed costs, and just the overall productivity of that cow, including how many pounds she produces, and how that all comes together, and you balance that with the cost to look at profitability. In this session, we're lucky to have Dr. Kent Anderson from Zoetis and Dr. Mark Allen with us to talk about strategies on how to genetically improve these key profit drivers. These are two guys who I think are two of the best minds in the industry regarding cattle genetics. And so we're really lucky to have them. I think a lot of ranchers do a pretty good job picking their bulls. But I just think this whole replacement selection procedure is very inaccurate. I know when we pick our seed stock, we have all these EPDs we could look at that rate them on all these different traits. And then we make decisions based on combinations of those traits. And then I watch my commercial customers walk out into a pen and try to do all that visually. So it's an exciting time, I think, to be in the commercial cattle industry because we're having all new tools available to commercial ranchers to select replacement heifers and advance their cattle program. So I want to start with Kent Anderson and ask you, Kent, to explain to us the background behind how Inherit Select was developed by Zoetis and what that product will do.
Long story short, you had this wonderful resource of over 1.4 million animal records that come from a variety of breeds and crosses thereof, the desire to make those predictions genomic enhanced. And we had that technology and some experience with dairy. And the two of us came together and we genomically enhanced then the LCOC evaluation. And then the really fun thing was during that process, we got to thinking, we have the opportunity here to bring genetic evaluation to commercial cow-calf producers and other commercial segments of the industry. Hence, this companion but separate evaluation to the LCOC was born, called Inherit, that enables commercial crossbred replacement heifer candidates to be tested and get access to all of the same individual trait as well as index predictions and parent verification and genomic predictions of breed composition to finally then usher in this technology for commercial producers.
Ken, just give us an overview of the trait categories and the kind of information that we can extract from that analysis for a commercial producer on their herd.
So there's 15 different individual traits that range from the production measures of birth weight, weaning weight, yearling weight, to the maternal traits where we're really putting a lot of effort. And those would involve everything from mature cow size, teat and udder soundness, as well as milk and weaning weight. And as a side note, a very exciting development on fertility. And then also one of the strengths of your database, as you know, that really excites us is the massive amount of dry matter information to attack the cost side of beef production. And so we have that as well as post-weaning growth, and then the full complement of carcass traits to enable us to genetically design cattle to perform on grids and formulas. So it's very comprehensive, and then we, through that product, can give the customer access to dollar ranch and dollar profit, as well as the Zoetis indexes and some of the other features I mentioned previously.
You look at right now, the cost of land, the cost of feed, that's extremely high in the beef industry. And then we start getting pressure on the overall carbon footprint that we're being held responsible for. These traits become more and more important. And how do we lower these costs? We have to think the ability of the commercial rancher to utilize, inherit, and have genetic information on their females as it relates to dry matter and intake and mature weight, reducing costs, bring mature weight lower, and the genetic differences in actual dry matter intake, those cows that eat less but still do what they need to do, is huge. And I think it's a big part of one of the great advantages of this database, the sheer amount of data and quality of data that's allowed this product to be built.
Yeah, I sure think we've made tons of progress as an industry improving growth rate, but we really haven't had any control on the mature weight and the feed intake. And, without putting those in check, we're just going to go into orbit. I mean, obviously we can select for cattle that grow faster and eat more, but they're not really the ones we want. We want the animals that grow faster and do it from a cow base that's moderate and do it in a feedlot where they really convert well.
These are key, these antagonists. We select for animals that decreased fat to stay away from yield 4s and 5s. However, in the cow herd, that's antagonistic. We would like to have females that tend to carry a little fat a little easier, produce that fat on those low quality forages and breed back. So it's these maternal indexes and like Dollar Ranch are going to be extremely important in the future for those that are retaining replacements.
As you were saying all that, talking about these replacement heifers, I started to make a list of the things that we can't see when we go to pick those replacement heifers, right? We really can't see how good their teat and udder quality is going to be as they age. We can't see how much feed they're going to require to stay in body condition. We can't see what their lifetime productivity is going to be. We've all picked out our favorite replacement heifer, who's the big, good-looking one that's born early and come back and find her open after the first calf. I mean, that's happened to all of us. And we really can't see whether she's going to produce a calf that's going to be a calf that's really going to have a tremendous amount of value in the feedlot and on the rail.
Coming up,
Our steers came at 620 and our heifers were 590. So, we're seeing the results on the field rather than just on pieces of paper.
we'll hear from Scott Bell and his son Casey to see how their family is putting Leachman's plan to work. You're watching The American Rancher. Welcome back to The American Rancher. Scott Bell and his son Casey ranch outside of Dolores, Colorado. They've been using Leachman genetics and Zoetis inherit DNA tests to improve their cow herd and build their legacy of herd profitability.
Over the years, I've just been trying to build up the genetics in them and get better calves on the ground, easier, more efficient cows, smaller. So I started looking around and found Leachman Cattle Company, and I'd heard of them before. We run 170 mother cows, gone solely to Leachman stabilizer bulls and put them on all of our cattle, and are very, very impressed with the results. Most of them are low-pat cattle, and by crossing them with these stabilizer low-pat bulls have been a great benefit to us.
I think, one of the things that we ask ranchers is, as you look at all the different ways that you've looked at genetics over the last 15 years, I think really at the heart of it, and kind of, I love that about your family and all the families we get to work with. At the heart of it, we're trying to make investments today that are going to give us a better chance at doing what we love tomorrow, right?
Pretty exciting when you have a new calf off of the heifer to check on her, and that calf is up and vigorous within just a couple of minutes. We weaned a little bit early. I think our steers came at 620 and our heifers were 590. We're shooting for a $20,000 profit cow herd. That's our goal.
So tell us about what you found buying those females and how that worked. Always a challenge to take cattle out of a seed stock environment and put them in a commercial environment.
Well, I know when you sold those heifers to us, you wanted them back. You didn't get them. Sorry. Those are the best females that we've got in the herd. They're easy calvers, great moms. I can't say enough good about them. Their conformation is amazing. What we're trying to do now is replace the cattle that we have that are not Leachman and get more of the stabilizer blood in our cattle herd, because it's proven itself to us. All the phenotypes, the mother care, the milk, the protection that mother gives to that baby.
A lot of people get a mutt dog from the pound or something, and it ends up being the best dog that you've ever had. And I think when you start getting into hybrids and everything, you get the best of those breeds, and you're not hanging on to all the bad stuff that comes with purebreds. Like you look at a purebred golden retriever or German shepherds, they have problems with their hips and stuff like that. It's the same concept with cattle. You get rid of all of the bad stuff in a breed, and evolution takes over, and you get the best stuff out of those four breeds. And crossing it with Angus, we get the best out of the Angus as well. So I ran a business as a construction worker, independent for my whole life, and I always looked for the best way to do things in my company. And I always hired the best subs that I could, because I wanted the final product to be the best that I could. And so we built a lot of custom homes. We built a lot of steel buildings for commercial buildings for companies. And all the time I looked for the very best craftsmanship from my subs. I looked for the very best material, and I always went overboard when I build something. And that's what I see in your company, Lee, is everyone goes overboard to help you to gain more knowledge, to learn how to raise a better animal, and to be the top of the cattle business. And that's why we're excited about it. We want to continue to work with your group
And I call them the family because you guys treat us just like family. Just as soon as we knew, it was amazing. And that's what you're trying to do. It seems like to us is help us to improve our genetics so that we can have the best cattle that the country can provide.
Thank you for joining us in the program today. If you're interested in learning more about these topics or hearing from our speakers today, there's a seminar recorded online that's a long version of today's program, and you can find that at leachman.com. Of course, we want to invite you to come out and join us for our upcoming sale that's next week. Saturday, March 20th, we're going to inspect cattle all day, and it'll be a chance to spend time with us and see the offering. On Sunday, March 21st, we'll have 200 replacement heifers that'll sell that day through the auction. On Monday, March 22nd, we'll be offering 500 high dollar profit stabilizer bulls. So come join us for all our hospitality. We'll be social distancing, but it'll be a Leachman sale event. And of course, if you can't join us out here in Fort Collins during the week of the sale, we invite you to participate through our representatives who can buy and bid or help you pick out cattle in the sale. And of course, you can watch on Superior's Click to Bid, where you'll see videos of all the sale animals and you can bid on them remotely. So come join us. We'd love to earn your business. Thank you.
To find out more about the annual Leachman Bull Sale, log on to leachman.com. And to find out more about us, visit our website, theamericanrancher.com, or connect with us on Facebook. I'm Pam Minnick. For our entire American Rancher team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Superior.